Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Comic Book Weekly. And guys, I am Mike Spider Slayer. Guys, we're going to have a great show for you today. Great topic. I'm curious on what everyone's going to think about this topic when we get to it later on. Of course, I have my co-host with me. We have Cat Comic Uno.
Hey, guys.
And then we also have Brant Fowler.
What's up, everybody?
This is the bow, almost as like a curtsy, you know.
I felt the curtsy.
Yeah. So welcome, everybody.
Felt curtsy.
Appreciate you tuning in. You know, if you have a second before we get started, give this stream a like. Let people know that it's out there. Hit that bell, of course, so you don't miss it when it actually goes live. And yeah, so cool books this week. At least we got some books to actually talk about, and we got a huge topic to talk about later, which will be cool when we have everybody on here. But today we're going to kick it off with the comic books. So let's dive right into it. As a reminder, guys, there are spoilers when we discuss these comic books. They have been out a week, so we kind of figure, you know what? Too bad, so sad. So here we go. Let's make sure you guys are ready, and we're going to talk about probably one of the biggest books of the week, and that is Batman vs. Robin. This is issue 1, written by Mark Waid. We get a return of a certain character by the name of Alfred. Whether it's actually Alfred or not is still to be determined, but really good character interactions between Batman and Alfred in this issue, which I really appreciated. And the fight between Damian and Batman is obviously influenced by magic. And this was a pretty good book, man. I really liked it. One of my favorite books this week. What'd you guys think?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I was surprised by how well I liked it, actually. I didn't really know why they were going to be fighting exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So introducing the magic element made sense. And it wasn't like overly magic, like, oh, you know, you're dealing with like Justice League Dark level stuff, even though they were present, or at least Santana was. But it's I don't know, it was just a little bit lighter as far as the magic stuff, so you didn't have to be like steeped in that side of DC to get into this story. So
yeah, I definitely agree. I thought it was really solid. I think my only complaint was that I thought Damian felt a little out of character because he was so like angsty, and I thought he kind of got over that in the last Robin series. But at the same time, I think they've referenced a lot of the Robin stuff, especially the cliffhanger has to do with his great grandmother.
Yeah, I think part of that was he's influenced by the magic. I think they kind of hinted at that.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at too. And then of course he's the creature behind it all is the devil Neza, you know, and obviously kind of makes sense with, you know, Mark Waid writing this book that he's going to have his big bad villain in this as well. So yeah, really some creepy stuff in there too. The whole thing with Zatanna, you know, how she was like being hung.
I really like that.
Yeah,
that was cool.
I did too.
Definitely different. Swamp Thing being all, you know, he's stuck in like within the green, and then
Etrigan.
Yeah, it was cool, man. There was definitely some awesome elements in that book.
The art was just really good, and I think we said this from last week too, where it's like this feels like an event because again, the art's good, the writing's good, and it was led up of so much storytelling because you had the whole Robin series that led to this, and then I guess you had pieces of the flagship of Batman, but you also have World's Finest. Like there's just so many pieces that feel like, oh, this feels like a big event. This feels like it should have this name, and Alfred's coming back, and it just feels, I miss books like this. I miss events like this.
Yeah, and speaking of Alfred, I think he was written so well here. Whether he's the real one or not, just his interaction with Bruce, like you talked about, Mike, was just, you know, top notch, and him like insisting, Bruce, he's my family too, you know, and all that stuff. So it was really strong, powerful stuff between those two.
Yeah, excellent book. All right, cool. Glad you guys liked it as well. Just to give a quick shout out to some of the viewers out here that are joining us early. We got Kenneth on the show. Of course, we have Tevia. We have the name changes, Sean Ali, Willie Belcher, the infamous Mike Manhattan is on the show. Guys, welcome, plus all the other viewers. Hopefully you guys will enjoy. We just talked about Batman vs. Robin. We will talk about the dawn of DCU or whatever the heck it's called. Once we get done talking with the comics. So yeah, it's kind of funny how we had that conversation last week about DC. And then literally, I think this was announced like 2 days later or something like that they're actually rebooting. So that's going to be a fun conversation.
I think it was trending on Twitter too, because I remember like Nightwing was trending, and because you had this cover of him. So, people were talking about it.
Yep, absolutely. All right. So we're probably going to go from one great book to one bad book. We have The Amazing Spider-Man. This is issue 9. So this was an X-Men Gala tie-in, and you know what? I was really super stoked about reading this book because it was like Wolverine and Spider-Man teaming up. And I opened up the artwork when I was showing off on my comic book haul, and I was like, "Oh, dude, Patrick Gleason's doing the artwork in this book," and I'm like, "That is so great." And then I realized that it had the logo of the X-Men Gala. I'm like, "Oh shit!" I'm like, "This is tying into the Gala." And I'm like, and I remember when this book was announced that it was going to be delayed. So this book felt completely out of place. It takes place like a month and a half after or 2 months after the Gala has happened. And this story just felt like it was just not needed of what's going on in Amazing Spider-Man comic right now. Even the story itself was just, it was very lackluster. It was like, oh, let's save Mary Jane. She's a damsel in distress. She's being, possessed by Moira McTaggart, who's like the freaking Terminator now, and her hand can act as a freaking necklace. Like, how cheesy was that? And then he rescues her, and then she's like, "Oh, Peter, you should know great power, responsibility." I'm like, dude, screw that. This whole issue was just like, it just was completely not needed at all.
I didn't have so much vitriol for this show. I thought it was fine. I agree it was completely out of place. The only thing that tied in like to what's going on in Spider-Man is they reference Paul and that whole thing. But I mean, it was, if this had come out during the Gala and all that stuff, I would have been totally fine with it.
And I would be too, because it makes sense.
Right. Yeah, but it's a little
the delay definitely is weird. And me and Mike were talking about this pre-show. We're like, wait, this is delayed, because I was like, oh, it just felt weird that they were having this. I didn't know there was even a delay. I just thought they were randomly having this issue.
Right. I did too.
It's hard and it's conflicting because I feel that the art has improved so much. I like that. There's some moments like I liked Wolverine and Spider-Man teaming up. I guess seeing Mary Jane, but you're right. I mean, it's all the complaints that we've been having about Spider-Man. Nothing's happening. Things are delayed. It doesn't feel important. And then, the ending's a little frustrating. It's like, oh, you just keep teasing us. And then you do have the one word about responsibility is like, oh, did she hint something? It's like, is this because she has like something with Paul is her responsibility? I'm like, but do I care about the teasing anymore? We're now 9 issues in. How many years of this are we going to get? Like, this is not storytelling anymore. And again, not of the fault of the writer. I do think it's more of an editorial thing. I'm sure he has a bigger plan, but the pacing is not working for me for years on Spider-Man now.
And when it's delayed by 2 months, like, it makes it a little worse. You know what I'm saying? So that's frustrating.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
I almost wonder if he wrote it thinking that it was still going to be on that 3 issues a month schedule.
Yeah.
So like you get more of the story. But I mean, it's so decompressed. It's ridiculous.
This might be, again, I don't think we're at Nick Spencer level yet, but we're kind of getting to a point where 10 issues from now, if the same things are happening, I'm like, oh, we're kind of getting to a Nick Spencer level. And the tease is just Mary Jane and Peter. At least we don't have like who's kindred. But at this point, the big question is like, why do the kids exist? Who's Paul?
Exactly.
They're just teasing it,
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna get this dark web thing that's happening, and you're getting like, the Hobgoblin story that's getting ready to come out and stuff like that. Even though like we don't get these answers like of what's happened in those 6 months, I still find the overall story more entertaining than Nick Spencer. I mean, I find it more entertaining. I love like the stuff that's been going on. It's just, I do want to find out obviously what's going on with that 6 months. It's just like, the whole thing with Kindred was we wanted to know who Kindred was, and we never even found out who that character was, and it was so disappointing when we found out who it was, you know?
Yeah, all that time for a lackluster reveal that we could have guessed in 2 issues. Yeah,
Right. There
that was
was
the
some
problem.
funny moments in the beginning of this
Oh
comic
yeah,
when Peter was at the gala and he was like interacting
yeah,
with
that was fun.
Cyclops and some of the other X-Men. Like I was laughing out loud at that. And then it's just like it just became so bad. It was like just a nothing issue. It's just like protect me so I don't die and I need to find my body again and blah blah blah. I'm like,
Yeah.
But see, I didn't think it was any worse than what we've been getting. Because like, maybe
agree.
because of the art. Maybe it was the art where I was just like, it's fine. Like again, I didn't hate it. I thought it was very middle.
I
of the
love
road,
the
and I don't
action
love
in it, and I just,
Mhm.
I just, what bothered me is just that it just felt really out of place, and I,
Yeah.
it didn't even connect to anything that was going on right now at all.
Right.
Period.
I do want to answer Tevia and pretty much everyone who's shouting out the next people that they want for Spider-Man. I think what the 3 of us, or at least what I've learned over the years, it doesn't matter who writes Spider-Man. It's going to be the same story over and over again. It really doesn't matter who's writing Spider-Man these days. I think my only hope for Spider-Man is Dan Slott's run because it's a second series and not the flagship. I have a little bit more hope for that series, and because it's still in continuity.
But the problem is right now it's still going to be dealing with the Edge of Spider-Verse.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's going to be going on for a little bit there once that series kicks off.
I don't know. It almost feels like they uprooted Spider-Man's like typical storytelling for that long Dan Slott run that they're now like, oh, we've got to keep things normal for a while. we got to keep that status quo. Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. We'll see. I just I don't know. I felt like Patrick Gleason's artwork was wasted on that issue. I think maybe that's what was supposed to, because his artwork's really good.
Yeah,
man.
It was good art.
Yeah, it was really nice.
See, but that's the thing I really enjoyed about the issue.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, at least we had really good art.
That's true.
Because if it was John Romita Jr., I'd be like, oh, I also didn't really like the art either. So I'm like,
you can see like on the main cover the way he draws Wolverine, and then you look inside the artwork, and then you're like, oh, well, this is the way Patrick Gleason draws Wolverine. Like it's like night and day, man.
And I do want to say for any new viewers that pop in, we're critical of Spider-Man because we all love Spider-Man so much. We want it to be so good.
Yeah.
So just saying, we don't hate it.
I don't know. There was something about it this week I just didn't like, man. I'll be honest with you. It was like my least favorite book of the week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love that. It's always fun to see when Mike cracks on Spider-Man, because usually me and Brant crack a little earlier for Spider-Man. We're like, ooh, and then Mike's like, no, give it a shot. And then there's an issue there. He's like, no, this is the one I don't like. And that's
there will be one that I hate that throws in. But if it gets a little bit back on track to where it was, and then I'll be all right again. And then like I was telling Kat before the show, Brant, that I am looking forward to this Dark Web event. I am. I'm kind of excited for it. I feel like we haven't had like a Spider-Man event in a while, so I feel like that this one might have potential. So I'm looking forward.
And they're using all the players too. Black Cat's in it. Mary Jane's in it. There's a couple of people in this one, so I'm like, all right, we'll see. I mean, I always want to come into optimism with anything, but especially Spider-Man, just because again we have such a heart for it. So of course we want it to be good, and I think that's why I'm like, oh, I really hope the Dan Slott's run good, because we get a good run. You know, it's Mark Bagley art. Like just hoping for the best.
The only thing that seems out of place out of all of it is Ms. Marvel. Like she's getting her own tie-in. I'm like, why? You know, it's like, why did we have no other place to put her, but we're going to stick her there. So I was like,
give her a series, guys. Give her a graphic novel. I think that's the answer. People want Miss Marvel stories.
Yep.
I did enjoy that. Not to jump ahead to other books and stuff, but I did enjoy that 3 issue series thing.
Oh, I did too. I didn't
love it, but I didn't love it. No, because I just want a story from her. I'm like, I guess it's cool that she's fighting people and she's teaming up. I guess it's cool that we're getting stories, but I'm just like, I hate that she's in this like limbo.
Yeah, I thought Jody Houser wrote her really well though throughout this whole thing. So
my favorite one was the Moon Knight one. I thought written wise and artistically wise, I thought it was really good because it was just the way like he drew her and in the way her powers were used, and I thought it was absolutely excellent. Now, what they should have done was they should have made this Marvel team up, Ms. Marvel with blah 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 issue 1, 2, and 3, because it really is a continuing story instead of doing supposed one shots. It is literally a story. So you know, that's the way I looked at it.
I like the X-Men one. I think that was the one I enjoyed the most. It was the first one where I was like, okay, this is cool, and I didn't expect it. It was like a fun little adventure.
And it should have been called the X-Men, though, too. It
should have been. It was Wolverine. It was definitely the X-Men.
Yeah.
And I like that, you know, there's some stories, like She-Hulk's a good example, where Krakoa doesn't feel like this cult, and they still feel like the X-Men, and that was a good example of like, oh, they're interacting with someone that's not mutants, and it doesn't feel like a cult.
Right, exactly.
Right. All right, cool. Let's move on. Let's talk about a book that we've all enjoyed, I'm sure, and that was Do a Power Bomb. This is issue 4. Now, my shop didn't get it in this time at all, so I had to read it digitally again, and supposedly they said they were getting it in this week, but I did read it, and so I just love this book. It doesn't matter.
So good.
It just doesn't matter. It's just really good. Love the fight, love the heart, love the art. And I made this when I did this on my review, I made it a thing that I feel like this is a lost art or lost thing in comic books these days, is the word expressions or the sound effects in comics. You don't see that anymore. And it's all over this comic book. And I love that so much. It makes you feel like you're in the ring right there with those wrestlers. It's so good.
My favorite one of those was the "oh yeah." She was like, "oh yeah," and it was a surrounder. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. So, but overall, again, character interactions in this book is good. Just the fighting styles and just the intensity, and just there's so much that happens. And then the little twist with the brother was in there as well, and he almost died in the ring. That was crazy.
Yeah,
it was just a solid issue. I will say, if I had to compare all 4 issues, this is probably one I like the least, but compared to all comics, this is still the best comic out on stands. Just because it didn't move as much. It was more of a point A to point B, but even a point A to point B thing still happened, because you still get the brother, you still get good action. It's still a really good issue.
That makes sense though, Kat, because there was more wrestling in this issue, I think.
Yeah,
true. That is true.
There was a lot more wrestling. There wasn't as much storytelling, and
the
cliffhanger wasn't as dramatic as previous cliffhangers.
Right.
Either.
Right.
He's like, now we're going to go to town. I'm going to bust out my chair and my fluorescent freaking light bulbs, and we're going to beat these guys,
I love that, though. All right, deathmatch time. All right, let's go. This is just a really good book, man. And it's like, I've read so many wrestling books over the years, and they're good for what they are. And some of them have a deeper story, a richer story. But it's really hard to balance wrestling with another type of story. And I think this has done something completely different that is like tapped into supernatural and sci-fi and action and wrestling and kind of in heart and drama. And it's packaged it in this really fun way that I just think is fantastic.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Absolutely. Daniel Warren Johnson is really good. I mean, Brant, did you read the Better Ray Bill one?
I read the first issue.
Yeah, that's right. You dropped off of it, right?
I didn't love the art in it, was the problem.
And he's the same artist.
I know.
It's the same person.
I didn't like his take on Beta Ray Bill.
It might be a darker style for something that's mainstream, because it's kind of like we say about John Romita Jr., which obviously very different artist. But for Kick-Ass, it works for Kick-Ass because that's the style. But Beta Ray Bill, you're used to a certain style,
right? So you guys didn't read Murder Falcon, though, did you?
No.
Okay,
no, I remember you saying great things.
Yeah, I said that when that came out. I said that's a great book. So if you want to go back and read that, I would recommend that for sure, because it's a good really good story of this guy who, and cancer and all this other stuff, and it's awesome. I think it has a lot of heart as well. Great book, and that's how I got into Daniel Warren Johnson was that Murder Falcon book.
Right.
I think that was one of his first titles too.
Yeah.
I think.
And then
it's kind of crazy how he exploded because like that wasn't that long ago.
Woman. I didn't like the Wonder Woman series that he did, but I did like the Better Ray Bill. He's also doing he's teaming up with the other guy with the Jurassic League book, which is actually really good too. So yeah, he's got some good stuff, man.
We also got another question. I believe this is a Jeff Lemire book, but did anyone check out the Black Feathers book? I did not. I usually love Jeff Lemire. But,
I did not. I didn't even realize he wrote that, so I'm kind of regretting not picking it up. And you probably wouldn't. Andrea Sorrentino does the artwork, Kat, on that.
Yeah, that's probably why I skipped it. I probably looked at it like Jeff Lemire. I'm like, oh, never mind for the art. Again, nothing against it, but it's just not my style.
All right, so let's go on to our number 5 then. What was your number 5, Kat?
I was Edge of Spider-Verse. I got this on whim, just because I like the cover, honestly. And then I knew that Black Cat was going to be like this spider person. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And all these stories are so half stories that it's not a real book. And I'm like, oh, this is why I'm not getting this, because they literally don't finish. You're like, to be continued. I'm like, so you're going to continue like 10 stories in this one book? I felt like everything had a possibility to be a good story, and then it just obviously didn't have enough time to finish. So I didn't love it. But I mean, it is my number 5. It's still a 3-star book because there's so much potential for each story. And it bothered me, but I still liked it. Like, I really liked that Black Cat story. I thought it was fun. They introduced the supporting cast members really well. I'm like, oh, I can see this being its own miniseries.
Honestly, I've enjoyed this run of Edge of Spider-Verse more just because of I think they've told, but even though they're half stories and who knows what's going to happen to any of these characters, but I think they've introduced more interesting characters with interesting stories throughout this whole thing. Like, I enjoyed all of these characters in this issue. I really like Sakura Spider, actually, and
that was cool. The ending, the manga one, right?
Yeah.
That was, the visuals were so cool for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
I only liked the Night Spider story, and even that, like, I like the concept of the character, but for me, like, when it comes to Felicia being a spider character, she looked no different than any other Spider-Woman that we've seen out there. The thing that I liked about her was obviously her personality. That's what I liked about her in the book. I didn't care about Spider-Man India. There wasn't enough there to make me care.
He literally said who he was, and that's it. He's
exactly.
Like,
it was like 2 pages.
All monologue.
I thought the art was good in that story.
It was. Yeah. And then it was just like, well, great power comes with great responsibility.
Yeah,
even Sakura Spider is making fun of saying it 1,000 times. And I'm just like, the only thing I got out of it, honestly, was the Night Spider story. There was nothing new. There was nothing that really, like, issue 2 had the characters, they had the antagonist, they had more to it, I felt. And it had Spider UK, which reminded me similar of Night Spider because they both had actual stories in their book, like stuff that actually happened. So, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't feel this one as much as the last one, but I did like the Night Spider story. So I'm like with Kat there. Like, I could see that being an actual series. I could possibly see that person or that character maybe taking off. But I do need to see her do something a little bit different besides her being able to, I don't know, maybe like be Spider-Woman, except the same exact character. I don't know, you know, it's like she's still Black Cat, but now she can web swing, you know. So, I don't know. I got mixed emotions on it a little bit.
Again, I think from that one, I just like the detective character. Like, I liked that in such a short amount of time, I felt like the world was built. And I was like, oh, that's like pretty expert writing. You know, it's just a shame that you really can't tell a full story, even if it felt real, which was nice. And that's such a rarity.
I think with these, they're hoping for another Spider-Gwen, though, right? So they're like,
That's what they're trying for.
Yeah,
Spider-Gwen
exactly.
had at least one issue. It had a beginning,
Yeah.
middle, and end, and I think that was
Yeah.
such like it almost felt like a Spider-Gwen in some ways, where I'm like, oh, I could see this being cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess time will tell, though, right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Brant, what do you got? Number 5.
True Cult number 2. It won me back. So,
Did it really?
Yeah, it did.
And my store didn't have that one either.
Oh,
And
no.
then I totally forgot about it, and I didn't read it at all.
Okay, so I
was wondering why you
didn't
pick it up, because I was like, wait, I thought you loved that issue last
Yeah,
time.
I did, and I totally forgot about it. I didn't see it at the store, so it, out of sight, out of mind type of thing. Do a power bomb's like whole other level for me, so it was like
sure.
I wasn't going to forget it, and that I forgot.
Okay. Well, no, I enjoyed it. I felt like the thing I was afraid of at the end of last issue, where it was going, I think they kind of saved it a little bit for me because it didn't go quite as far as I was fearing that it would. So that's all I'm really going to say, because I don't want to spoil it. But I thought it was a solid issue.
Was it funny?
It was funny, yeah.
There
were some funny parts, and how they were taken at the end of the last issue, right?
Yeah.
So the girl talks like the whole time, and she's like just going through the do you use this kind of method for your cleaning out the grease trap, that kind of stuff throughout the whole thing.
Oh my god!
It was hilarious. It was kind of
funny. All right, and my number 5 was, what was my number 5? Speaking of Jurassic League, issue 5 of 6. So it's the penultimate issue. The dark side version of these dinosaurs has been unleashed. He's been the big bad in this book, and we get to see our heroes try to start doing battle against, dark side. He's obviously ultimate and all powerful. Wonder Woman Triceratops tries to go after him, and Superman's staying behind. He's like, I gotta save the people here, and blah blah blah. And then he winds up meeting with like Paw Kent in this world, who's a dinosaur. Everyone's a dinosaur, obviously, and they introduced him to his spaceship. And you met, Jarrell, and in this world as well. And he kind of encourages Superman to go out there and do the right thing and trying to defeat Darkseid. And it's just cool, man. It's a lot of fun seeing these characters look like this. And this totally reminds me of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's all I can compare this to. And you just need a toy line from it. It's great. It's a fun.
They'll get one.
Yeah, it should. It's just a fun comic book to read. And that's what I love about it, with wonderful artwork.
Cool.
All right. So what do we got here? Tevia says, aren't we getting another Edge of Spider-Verse this week? I don't think so. I don't know if we're getting one this week, though.
I don't know.
Let's see. Consensual sent slots. I'm keeping up and current with my runs, and the books should be on the shelves like next week. Totally for sure.
Tevia's right. We are.
Yeah?
Oh, there you go.
Man, oh man. Jurassic League has been such a good book. That's what Kenneth says.
Getting another Axe Judgment Day as well.
Oh, too bad I'm skipping that. I dropped it, Brant. It's done.
Oh,
I heard this issue something happened too. Does something happen in this issue, Brant?
At the end, yeah.
I heard some big thing happen.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll get there eventually, right? Or no?
No, only Brant read it. So, Brant, if you want to reveal what happened.
Yeah. If you want to take a minute and talk about it, go ahead. Spoil it.
I'll be very brief, because most of the issue is about Eros, and him coming up with this master plan, which was basically a political move. But at the end, it was just death. He made the final judgment, and they didn't pass. So he was raining death on everybody, and there was people dying left and right. So
who died? I heard that was like the big thing.
It was like everybody except Captain America, who was blocking the blast with his shield. I mean, like everybody.
Okay. Oh wow.
Yeah, Eros and everybody. So I don't know. It was hard to make. I know. I pre-ordered up through issue 5 at least, I think. So
well, you might as well finish it, because isn't there
exactly
like 6 issues? Yeah,
7, I think. But yeah, 6 or 7.
I just can't. I couldn't. I could not read any more of it. The only thing that I have left to read is the Amazing Spider-Man Axe Judgment Day book, just because you have to. It's part of the run. So again, we're not going to have another story that doesn't deal with the current
the
run
stuff.
because it's tying into the event.
Right.
So. All right. So we talked about that. So let's talk about, what is it, Brant? You read this, Dark Spaces Wildfire issue 3. What'd you think about this issue?
I enjoyed this. I read like all 3 issues back to back because issue 1, the reason I hadn't read it is because that shipment got lost.
Yeah.
and it took me weeks to get it finally. And then I finally got it and I caught up. I think this is a really solid story because you start off knowing what's going to happen to them in the end.
Yeah.
It was like 7 Secrets in that way. And I thought that was an interesting twist. So probably this was the least of the 3 for me, but I still enjoyed it quite a bit. So
I agree. I agree with you. This was my least favorite, but the ending was kind of insane.
Yeah.
Didn't see that coming. And then you got these people that are storming that house.
Right.
And it's just like, but I love, this is a different style book. Like I love like all the firefighting references and lingo and how Scott Snyder has managed to incorporate that in the book, in the plot itself. Right. That's what I like about it. And how this plan relates to fighting fires, it's just so interesting, man. It's a well-written book, and I'm curious to see, obviously how it turns out at the end of the day. But how many issues is it?
I don't know, actually.
So I'm very.
I think it's gonna be like a larger franchise. Like there's gonna be more Dark Spaces books at least.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. 5 issues.
Okay.
So we got 2 more.
2 more left to go. All right, cool. Next, we're going to talk about a book I don't read, so that's Superman, Son of Kal-El. What happened this time?
It's just a filler issue for the most part until the end, where he kisses Jay in front of like camera people, and they're like, "Oh, cool, they're together," and that's it. I feel like it was very reminiscent to like the Bendis run. It was very much like, "Oh, look, Superman outing himself." Yeah, and we get to see it.
So now we get everyone knows that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, aside from that, it was the final battle with the big bad of this arc, if you can call it an arc. Yeah, I agree. And his mother being all cyborgy now, and I was like, okay, it was typical of what this book has been. But then that moment was the big thing.
I'm interested in the next issue though, because it will tie into action and Superman.
That's what I was just about to say. Yeah. So now it's gonna. It's tie into Action Comics to see where it all goes from here. But I think the real jumping on point for Action is going to be, was it 1050? I think that's I think if you want to jump on Superman at that point, I think that's where you should jump on personally.
Right.
That's probably what I'm going to do, just to see where we go from here now. All right, so let's move on to number 4. And Kat, I'll start with you. What was your number 4?
I'm a Spider-Man. We already talked about it.
What about you, Brant?
Mine was Dark Spaces, so we already talked about that too.
All right. Mine was Ms. Marvel and Venom. Issue really 3, but they say it's 1. Good book, man. I like I said, overall, I love this story. I love the team up between the young characters because you get Ms. Marvel teaming up with Dylan Brock in this. And it's kind of interesting, them kind of guiding each other on what's right, what's wrong, and this crazy weird experiment that happened, and through here you find out the bad guys in this book. But just overall, I don't look at just this issue. I look at the other 2, which made a really good, beginning, middle, and end. It wasn't anything overly complex type of story. I think it's the character interactions that made this book, and every book was really well done. Like I said earlier, the Moon Knight one was typically my favorite book, but this one was fun as well.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I like Jodie Hauser. She wrote the Faith stuff for Valiant.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So cool. So that was mine. So now we'll move on to Midnight Suns, issue 1.
This is
all three of us read it.
Surprisingly good. This
I
is
love
like,
this was good.
right?
Yeah,
This was good.
This
Yeah.
is like how you do a team book, because most team books, and I honestly, I say Thunderbolt did the very similar, where it's like this character is this character. Look, they're all here. This one, they use Strange Academy, which I don't even read, as a way to like say, yeah, they're all here. That's fine. You have to introduce them every second. There was actually a plot point with the student. Like, I was like, oh, this is good direction, good characters together. I just thought it was a very solid intro.
Yeah, no,
I
I completely agree. And tying in the Strange Academy stuff with it put it over the top for me, because I was a little hesitant on this book, but when I realized that was the starting point of the story, it's like, oh, okay, I know these characters, I know this story, and it made it even richer for me. But yeah, I agree with you, Kat. The way that they came together wasn't just like thrown together. It made perfect sense in the plot of the story. So yeah, I thought it was really good.
Yeah. Same thing. Strange Academy. When I saw it tied in from the beginning, I'm like, really? It does? I'm like, that's great, man. It just gave it just that much more depth instead of just these random characters thrown together to do whatever, Artwork was good. The concept of the story was good. I love how there was this vision that was seen by Zoe and on this apocalyptic situation. And now all our heroes have got to come together. And it's just a great cast of characters. And I love that here. So,
and I love
really,
Nico. So it was nice to see
Nico
her. And I love seeing Nico.
Yeah.
So.
I like seeing her regret getting rid of the staff. And so maybe we'll see that back. And I like that.
What I liked about that point, though, is just like, oh, it's interesting to see that she regretted the staff, but also shows that this writer is actually connecting to previous stuff that happened in these characters, because that was a big Runaways plot, which again, Runaways is such a cult comic. You didn't have to reference that. Nico could have been a fresh slate, but it's like, oh no, we're actually following up on threads that happened. So I'm very curious to see like how character driven this will be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just from a funny perspective, I like Wolverine's like, oh, magic crap.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, it's magic crap.
We had a question here. It says, Mike and Brant, how far did you both get in Superman Son of Kal before you dropped it? For me, it was issue 7. Brant, you still read it though.
Yeah, Brant has not dropped it.
I'm torturing myself. It's, man, I keep hoping it'll get better. So we'll see once it starts tying into action and stuff.
Yeah, I want to see where this arc ends up going. Yeah. And because it's Tom Taylor, I want to see it through. But I feel like if I don't love him returning with Superman, I think I would drop it. Because again, like I want to support like a bisexual hero, I think is really great. And I keep wanting it to get better and I want that representation to get better. But thus far, I haven't liked the plot. I don't think the relationship is very fleshed out. So I'm like, it's just been okay.
I think I dropped it 2 issues after that first kiss that he had with Jay. Maybe. So what issue was that?
I'm trying to remember.
Was teens, so it wasn't that long ago.
So
maybe like 2 arcs ago.
Yeah, my biggest thing with it is it's just, we've talked about it. It's just, it just doesn't go anywhere for me. Like there's nothing there. It's just like, I don't have a problem with him being gay either. You know what I'm saying? That's not the issue why I dropped it. I don't have a problem with having a gay Superman. I just need the story to be good. You know what I'm saying? I want Superman to do Superman-like things. It's great. He can be in a relationship with anybody else, but I just don't want to see a book just about his relationship. I want to see more.
It's not though, Mike. It's not about
anything.
It's about
nothing. Yeah, it's about nothing, which is the biggest problem. I wish it was about the relationship because at least it'd be about something.
Yeah, it's not about the relationship.
So what, he doesn't hang out with him? Like, what does Superman do?
They talk about, they literally they usually have 3 pages together and they talk about something that's happening in the plot, but the plot is really nothing. And then like you see Lex Luthor for 2 pages and then you see another person for 2 pages and they talk about nothing. It's like there's no progression at all.
It's like this whole underlying thing was Jay's, home country or whatever it is, has been taken over by this Bendix guy, right? And he's like doing experiments on all these people. That's like your whole thing. And that's what supposedly is the plot. But it's just so, I don't know, it's so empty and light in that regard. And it's so odd to say that about a Tom Taylor book. It's hard, but yeah, there's not a whole lot there, unfortunately. And for me, I think if this next arc doesn't get me right away, then I'm probably done. Because
I give you guys a lot of credit for
Yeah.
sticking with it as long as you have. It's just
That potential.
Superboy for me. I mean, just in general, right? Never been a huge fan. And so in order for me to continue to read it, it would have to really impress me story-wise, and it just didn't. So that's the whole reason why I didn't enjoy it. It's not like how it's like Spider-Man for me. Like I read it through the thick and thin, you know, no matter what happens. Batman, the regular Batman series, same thing. I read it through the thick and thin because it's like one of those characters, even the X-Men, like the main X-Men book. And Superboy is just not for me. Even Superman, same thing. It just to me, I never got totally into the character.
Yeah, if any of them would hold me, it'd be Connor, just because I have such a history with that character. Yeah.
Right.
Tevia does ask, do you believe John and Jay's relationship was failed or rushed? And he continues to say, I told you I knew the relationship was rushed and didn't feel earned from the very beginning. Nobody wanted John and Jay to be a couple. I didn't want it because it was rushed. You know, it's hard because I don't think anything's failed, because I feel like another writer could really do a great job with this relationship. I think Nico and Carolina is a really good example of that, where, you know, we've seen like flirtatiousness of those characters, but they were never together. And then Rainbow wrote them, and they were such a good relationship. And maybe another writer will write them, and they won't be a good relationship. So I think it always depends on the writer. And when it comes to being rushed, I just don't think anything's happening. So I don't know if it's rushed or not, because I just think, again, there's just nothing happening. But you could say that about what I think annoys me about the rhetoric is, like, you could say that about straight couples too. Like, you know, Mary Jane and Paul are rushed, and no one ever talks about that. But usually when it's like a queer couple, it's more of like a target. It's like they have to be a perfect couple because it's the only thing we got.
My only thing with that statement was the earned thing. I don't know that relationships have to be earned, because especially in your teen years,
relationships.
I mean, you just start dating somebody and it could end tomorrow. It's just, you know what I mean?
See if it works.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think you need to spend like a year dating or whatever you want to call it, hanging out before you're in a relationship.
I mean, it is kind of funny though too, because, you know, he is what, 16?
Yeah.
No, he's older. He's like 18 or 19.
Something. I don't know.
He's like
teenager.
College age. Yeah.
Really? I just think, I think he is still a little bit young to have such a I don't know how serious the relationship is, you know what I'm saying? Because based on what you guys are telling me, there's not much that's happening.
They've only kissed, and they've hardly met the parents. I don't think it's that serious.
Every time they're together, Superboy has to rush off, so they have no time together.
I don't think that's why it's also hard to say it's rushed, because like I don't think there's much. They're not getting married. There's nothing that's happened that's felt rushed, because they kissed. Like, that's not rushed.
It's
like comics is different. It's different now with today's comics, because comics don't last. Volumes don't last as long as obviously what they once did. So like, for instance, if you had relationships back in, you know, when they had the original numbering, these relationships would take a very long time to develop, and it would develop more organically, and you had time to flesh out that relationship. Here, it's kind of just like, well, maybe we should get them kissing and, you know, and stuff like that. And I don't know. Let's see what happens with it. I don't know. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Look, Nico and Carolina kissed the first time they got together, and it was amazing. And I love that issue. So I think it just depends on how it is written, you know?
Right. Was it like an impulse kiss? Like you felt?
No, they really set it up. They're like, that issue is pretty much Nico regretting that she told Carolina that back when they were teens that she didn't like her, because she was like, oh, I didn't really understand my sexuality back then. And it was like this really big moment where you're like, oh, cool, they kissed. So there was like this build up, but at the same time, that's how they started their relationship, was that one kiss. So I think it all depends on how things are written.
So then it went back to the past, then obviously
it did actually. So there was some build up.
so there was a build up there. So people that followed them in the past understood what that relationship meant. You know what I'm saying? So
all right, a better example, how about Iron Cat? I think Felicity, like that's a character we just got to know in this mini series, we've seen them kiss, and they've done flashbacks, but they've been able to really set up those characters because we do have that flashback.
Iron
but
Cat is a
great example of
perfect way to do a book, and that is a mini series. And the way that was introduced, I thought was brilliantly, because it does go back into past stories, right? So it's just
she's a new character still. A new character is just, it's a new flashback.
Right. It's a new flashback, goes back, and this person wanted revenge on Felicia because she killed the Black Fox. And you found out there was a story that happened when they had a relationship with each other. And if you read Black Cat, you know that she is bisexual because she had relationships with Odessa Drake, which was announced in the Spider-Man books. So it's this story, the way it's done, it's awesome. They're not in a current relationship, but you can still feel that they still care for each other in it, And so I don't know. There's just something. There's something obviously off in that Superman book,
Yeah.
So, all right. Let's see. Now we were talking so long, my computer went blank. So that was what was that?
Midnight Suns, actually.
That was Midnight Suns. Great. All right, getting back on track. Batgirl is issue 10. I don't read this anymore. You guys still do?
You don't have to. There's nothing going on. It's fine. It's just a series that's there. There could be blank pages. I'll continue to read for Stephanie Brown, but I don't love the book.
I will say the one thing that I was excited about, Mike, was Maps' big brother, showed up in this issue.
Oh, God.
And was flirting with Steph. So I thought that was
real.
That did happen.
Yeah.
That did happen.
Yeah. So I like that. I was like, oh, Gotham Academy reference. That was cool.
But Brand, that relationship came out of nowhere.
It wasn't earned.
It was so rushed. It was not earned.
They gotta give someone to Stephanie Brown now because Tim. So
yeah,
she's like she needs a new boyfriend.
She does.
Speaking of that, I'm anxious to see that new Tim Drake series that's going to come out in a couple weeks.
I'm excited because it's Tim, but I'm worried because I don't love the art. So I'm like, I'm so nervous about it. I don't love the interior art.
Who's the artist?
They've done remember those monster books from Detective Comics? It looks.
Oh.
Yeah, let me see if I can find I'll show you the artist on Tim Drake ongoing series. Okay. 2022. Let's say art. Let's see. I really want. It is a Riley Rosmo.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I don't.
No need to show anything.
I'm gonna show it for the people.
Yeah, okay, I want to see it too.
That's fine. I know exactly what this art is now.
It's like this.
Yeah.
Harley Quinn art.
Oh,
this person did Harley
cartoony
Quinn.
like that?
Yeah, Martian Manhunter. Is another example.
These are all covers. Is there any interiors?
Here's some interiors here. That's by Gardner.
Nothing against Riley Rosmo. It's just not my style.
Yeah.
I've never really liked his.
Ooh, that's weird. That's a weird one right there.
It's just very It's just very different art.
Yeah, it's over exaggerated to the point where it just looks.
I forget
weird.
Which image book. There was a really big image book he did years ago. I can't remember what it was. Proof. It was Proof. Yeah. It was big at the time anyway.
I don't even remember it. So
it was, I don't know. There was a lot of issues of it. And a friend of mine he was obsessed with it. So.
God.
I never read his indie stuff. I just remember reading his DC stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, it's not my thing. So I hope to love the Tim stuff. I know some people are complaining about the writing, but I like the urban legend story. I thought that was good. So
one you all might have heard of, Cowboy Ninja Viking. Do you all remember that one?
I do. Yeah,
that was also Image. Yeah. That was him as well.
Okay, haven't read it, but I have heard.
I haven't either, but.
So we'll see how Tim goes next month.
All right. So now that we talked about Batgirls for the brief moment, let's move on to number 3. I'll go first this time. So number 3 for me was actually Daredevil. Daredevil was pretty cool. We get I'm trying to remember because
it's pretty much a political issue. It was I think him talking to Luke, him talking to one of the other politicians.
They're talking to the what was it? What's their names? The people that like are in charge of everything that were kind of like a pain in the ass in Kingpin's side in the last volume. And they're trying to manipulate Luke Cage. It was the husband and wife with a lot of money. Yeah, those two. And they were trying to manipulate Luke Cage in this issue again, which was kind of cool. Then you got to see Daredevil go against who is it?
I can't remember her name, but like the one that
Anka, something like that. Yeah, it's Elektra's like nemesis or whatever.
Right, from that Elektra mini or
whatever, exactly. So, and he is totally unfamiliar with her, of her fighting style and how to pick her up and all kinds of stuff like that. So that was kind of cool. And then we get the announcement that obviously she gives him the information about the Punisher. So, which I thought was kind of cool as well. So obviously those two are crossing paths. So I thought that was kind of cool. So overall, pretty good comic book.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was
my
like number
the Foggy
6
stuff. Oh, go on.
No, that's all I was saying. It was my number 6. So.
I thought the ending with Foggy was cool. I still don't like this series as much as I did. I don't know. It's just not as interesting to me. I feel like it's been really slow.
It's got to build up because it's kind of the way it was in the beginning in the first arc, in the first volume. Yeah. So I'm
gonna stick with it. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, I am
too.
I'm
up to issue like 10 and it's like this, I might not, but I'll give it a good try.
Yeah, that first volume I remember dropping off because of that same reason.
Yeah.
And then it's like, it picked up a lot after that. So.
Exactly. All right, Brant, what was your number 3?
Mine was Midnight Suns, so we already talked about that.
So was mine.
All right, cool. All right, so we just talked about Daredevil. So the next book is The Least We Can Do, issue 1. I didn't even hear about this book, so I don't even know what it is.
Fantasy book. Kind of princess story. It's from Image. I like the art, that's why I picked it up, but I did not like the story. It was not for me. So maybe it's a Brand story, but it was not a me story.
It was okay. It was a weird concept because it was like the world had to start over. It's like post-apocalyptic, and now it's a fantasy world, but like magic has come into play or some kind of abilities or whatever. I thought it was decent. It wasn't my favorite. But it was the same reason I picked it up was for the art. So I don't know that I'll return for issue 2 though, but it was okay.
All right. Very cool. All right. So let's move on to number 2. And Kat, what was your number 2?
Mine was Do a Power Bomb. We already talked about it.
Brant.
Mine was Batman vs. Robin.
I see where this is going.
We're reversed.
Exactly.
Oh, I messed up my order because I don't have Do a Power Bomb with me. So everything is one messed up. So number 2 is actually Batman and Robin.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go back to number 3, which was Midnight Suns. Number 4 is Daredevil. Number 5 is Ms. Marvel and Venom. So you can already tell what number 1 is.
Yeah.
Let's just do a power bomb for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Me too.
That was it.
Yeah, mine was Batman vs. Robin.
Yeah. So we got our number 1s out of the way there.
Yeah. So did everyone do number 2 then?
Yeah, I mean, I think we did 2 and 1. So number 2 for me was Do a Power Bomb. For you is Batman vs. Robin, both of you guys. And then for me is Batman vs. Robin. And then you did Do a Power Bomb. So it's just switched.
So we got one more book to talk about. And I wound up picking this up because they had it at my shop. Surprisingly, they had this one.
That's surprising.
Yeah. And not the other. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so the 06 Protocol issue 1.
I didn't like this
concept. However, it took forever to get to where it needed to get to. You know what I'm saying? Like there was so much like talking to find out exactly the wife on who she was, and then she winds up escaping at the end. But but it was just I don't know. I felt that it was very slow, and I'm not sure if I'm going to get the next issue or not.
You know how sometimes you read a comic and you're like, oh, this would make a cool movie. Yeah. I think with this one, it's like this would have been better as a movie. You know what I mean? And or even in like a graphic novel, and the pacing was a little tight.
Pacing was slow.
Yeah.
And also, the dialogue work, I just didn't like. I thought it was really stiff. I was just like, I don't really get these characters. Like, I understand. Like, I agree with Mike. Like, the plot was really strong. Yeah. Like, took a while to get there. And then, like, the relationship with the mom and daughter wasn't really established very well. I didn't really love the art. I just thought it was very unpolished. It felt like it just needed another draft.
Yeah, I could see that. I definitely like the idea behind it, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I don't know if I'll return either.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Comment here. Is anyone reading Vault books? They are piquing my interest lately. Heart Eyes, Quest Aside, Mindset, etc. I read a little bit of Quest Aside.
Did you like it?
It was all right for me. Not anything spectacular, but I have read other books from Vault that I have enjoyed for sure.
Every single time I pick up a Vault book, I want to love it. And then I'm like, I think it's always okay. And I read like the first issue and then I forget about issue 2 or 3, or it's not my thing. And I think because it's so sci-fi bent usually, it's just not the genre I usually go for.
That. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if I've actually ever read a Vault book.
You read that Red Box one, the Mark Russell book, Dead Box.
Okay.
That was a Vault book.
Yeah.
Okay. It's hard to remember.
It's hard to remember, yeah. I get confused with Vault and Aftershock. I get they're very similar.
Also, the flame, the blue flame.
Blue flame.
We all read the first issue.
Oh,
yeah, we read the first issue of that one.
That. Okay. Yeah. So here and there, I guess. Nothing's stuck with me, I suppose.
All right. So, well, with that being said, let's get into the news, or do you want to talk about the DC stuff now, Kat?
Yeah, let's talk about the main topic.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about Dark Crisis is going to be bringing this new age of DC Comics, which is called the Dawn of the DCU. Not much is known, except it's going to be a new editorial shift, as always. Nightwing's on the cover. It looks like it's going to be more based on the Justice League. So, new creative team for the Justice League, new direction for the Justice League. Blah, 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 blah. We literally have seen this every single year. I don't care. Until I see it being good, I have no excitement.
But this is
Tell us
totally
how you really feel.
It's totally restarting, though. So I mean,
every year they restart.
I think like Batman is going to be restarting again too. Like it's going to start completely over. But
I didn't read it that way. I read it as just the Justice League was going to restart.
No, I think the whole thing is starting over. I think it's a complete reboot.
The interesting thing, the way that they phrase it in this article, is it's the next editorial era for the DCU.
Which I'm not surprised because they fired everybody.
Obviously, yeah. I don't know exactly what that means, but yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, this is very important, right? We finally get new writers for these books, especially for the Superman books. If you don't get new writers on these books and you get the same people, nothing's going to change. It's going to be the same.
I don't think we are getting new writers for a lot of these books. I don't see Tom Taylor leaving Nightwing.
We already know the same writer's staying on Action. He's not going to start this new thing with Superman coming back and then leave.
So you're going to get probably the same writers that are having success on certain books. Right? Like if Tom Taylor is still going to be writing Nightwing, well, obviously something is freaking happening with Nightwing here. Like look at the cover. Like Nightwing is like the freaking Phoenix on that picture there.
Yeah.
Like something is going on with him, right? So is Tom Taylor going to continue writing him? Probably, because he's though
one of their biggest writers,
story progression has not happened a lot in this book, but something's going on there. Unless it happens in, what was it, part 7 of this story, and that's what happens to Nightwing there. I don't know, but something's going to happen to him. But you need more writers besides Tom Taylor, right? Jeff Johns is coming back writing a couple books, so that's good,
Yes,
right?
anyways.
And who is going to be the person in charge of this? Like
Probably
who
like
is,
Mark Wade is my
you
guess.
know? I would
That
think
makes
Mark
sense.
Wade. It can't be Joshua Williamson, even though he's going to be doing this whole, like he's kicking this thing all
I
off.
feel like he's
doing
done
this
with
event,
DC.
but he's going to Substack, so his focus is not going to be there. It's going to be there. So,
but neither is Matthew Rosenberg, who they were really like doing a lot of like backup stories with him. He was doing a lot of Batman stuff, and he's probably not going to be doing a lot of DC stuff because he has 6 titles on Substack.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, but who are you going to get? I mean, but you need someone in charge here that's got to make a difference, because all that's going to happen is that if you make the same mistake again, you're going to lose everybody. And I don't think they can't do this. Think about that. This is another reboot
Because of Discovery, though. It's because
within
Discovery
5
bought them, and their Discovery probably is like, we need to change another thing. And we also had the buyout of, I forget who bought. I think it wasn't AT&T. It was something else that bought them. That was a couple of years ago, which is why we saw the editorial shift in those issue ones that happened.
It was AT&T.
It was AT&T. Yeah. And now we have another buying, which is why this is happening again, because they have new bosses.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, if you look at their overall sales, like, and where they are with their comic line, it's not that good. It's not good at all. Besides probably your Batman character, you know, obviously that's always going to sell. Your handful of books, we've talked about it before. They lack their line. They don't have a line. They just have Batman throwing up all over the place, and it's just like, you need people that can write these characters. And I think the biggest problem is they just don't. So, you know, I said this last week when we had this conversation, we need to get people that can write at least the core characters and then start from there.
Well, I think that's what Tom Taylor is doing. I think that's why they have Tom. They have Mark Wade. They have Philip Williamson. Well, I don't know.
Philip Kennedy Johnson.
I think Williamson, because what's so interesting is that all these DC writers are obviously friends. So they're like, all right, here's, you know, I'm going to make, like with Tynion and Williamson, they're friends. So he trusted Williamson to take over his run. And then, you know, maybe he saw Tynion doing really well in Substack. He's like, hey, do you want to do some Substack stuff? And he's like, sure. You know, and like all those people are becoming friends and they're all leaving. Same thing for Matthew Rosenberg. He probably made friends with people at DC. And he's like, all right, I guess I'll go to Substack.
I've got this picture in my head now that I'm sorry, Mike. I got this picture in my head now that you said the thing about Discovery, like calling the shots, Cat. And I've got like this big wig that has no knowledge of the comic universe and being like, well, your sales are really good here. Well, yeah, that was DC Rebirth. Yeah, do that again. Just whatever. You can make it happen.
Do it again.
I mean, when was DC Rebirth? Like 5 years ago?
Was it that long? Wow. If it was.
It was a while ago. But think about it. There were also bigger people then. I mean, I guess Tom King's still doing stuff there, but there was just like there were more exclusive writers, right? There were more writers that were working for the big two. And that has totally shifted. We're living in the 90s again in a way where, you know, all those big wigs from, you know, Marvel and DC made their own company with Image. And now we're seeing it again happen where you're like, ooh, there needs to be another. Tom Taylor is their kind of big person right now.
6 years ago.
6 years
That's
ago.
Crazy.
Wow. But see, even to reboot in 6 years, that's just not good. That's not good. And then you had New 52 before that. And that's not good. So because New 52 was what, 2008, 2007?
2012.
12? No.
Yeah, I think so. DC
I thought it was like 5 years.
2006. Oh no, that's Rebirth. BC New 52. Let's see. New 52 was 2011.
Okay, 2011. So you had 2011, and then you said it was. So what was 6 years ago?
2016.
Rebirth.
So 5 years. So within 10 years, within a decade, you've reset the universe twice, like completely reset it, you know?
Yeah.
And
I don't think they're going to reset the universe.
And if you look at it though, too, what do you count Future State as though too?
Yeah.
Future State was another.
they're calling this a direct sequel to Crisis, and they're bringing back the multiverse that existed during Crisis. So that sounds kind of, if not a hard reboot, it's kind of what they did during Crisis on Infinite Earths, where they merged
with the CW too. A very similar thing where none of those shows changed, but they all were connected.
Yeah, it could be like that. Like certain elements come back into play and that kind of thing. I don't know.
What elements can be brought back to play? They all have been back. There's like everything they've ever like replaced is still here now, you know?
They just don't know what they want to do. And
That's
there's no direction. There's just nothing. And if Joshua Williamson is kicking this thing off, right, and he's leaving, then who's to steer the ship from this point out?
Yeah. That's what Rebirth did, though, was like bring all that stuff back, right? Yeah.
Jeff Johns was the one behind Rebirth.
Yeah.
And look what happened with Jeff Johns.
Did he do anything for the last Rebirth? I don't think so.
Jeff Johns, though, was the one that helped kick off Rebirth. He was the one. And then you had like death metal happen, and then everything changed through that. and then obviously Jeff Johns left DC also because of all the troubles that he was in and stuff like that. And then you had Doomsday Clock. Remember, that was like a complete fail because it got so delayed, and that was supposed to change the universe.
Conflicting with Metal. It's conflicting with Scott Snyder's series too. So they had the same, both coming out at the same time. And it's a very similar thing where you have this crisis event happening with Flashpoint at the same time. You're like, which one am I reading? What's changing the universe?
Yeah, and then you had, before all that, the 5G stuff was being talked about, and then you threw that out and did Future State. And it's a mess. So they're trying to clean it up with a crisis.
Who's gonna promote? Like, it'd be great if you had someone promote this Dawn, right? Like, really pump it up. Because we talked the same thing. We talked about it last week. Like, there's no more Stan Lee. There's no more Dan Didio. There's no one that pumps this stuff up. For something like this, there should be someone out there that comes out on a stage and does a stream and says, listen, this is what we got going on. Get people hyped up about it. So at least then they'll go out there and buy some of these comic books when it does come out. But we'll find out soon, though. We'll find out very soon, you know, what these books are going to be about and what they're going to release and what's not going to be released. And I don't know, man.
To answer Willie Belcher about how many crises have we had?
Who knows?
Well, if we're following Bendis's timeline, we had like 3 more to go through or something like that, right?
Oh man, it's crazy.
I never even read the first Crisis, to tell you the truth.
I read the first Crisis a very long time ago, and obviously not during the time. So it's just like, oh, this was an interesting story because it did these big things that changed a lot of things forever. That's why it was cool. And
didn't the Crisis happen because of the same reason? Like there was just so much confusing stuff that
you had multiple Superman and everything because you had the Golden Age stuff and then you had the present day stuff, and it was so confusing that they had to do that to combine and marry elements of both. So that's why I was saying that might be what they're trying to do here. But again, that's what they did in Rebirth. So I don't know what they're.
We'll see in I guess January-ish time. I think that's when we're gonna start seeing the ramifications of that and get announcements. Which New York Comic Con is happening in 3 weeks, so I would not be surprised if that's where DC announces their lineup for this Dawn.
Quite possible.
I don't know what their panels look like there, but wouldn't be surprised. All right, let's get into some media news. So first up, we have. All right, I'm gonna start with the Brie Larson one first. Brie Larson's gonna be joining Fortnite. I don't play Fortnite, but I think what's interesting is seeing like someone who likes Fortnite be involved. She likes the game a lot, so it's cool to see someone with a fandom be part of it.
The interesting thing with this is like they have their own superhero team called the Seven that they've kind of been introducing slowly, and now they're like a big part of the backstory. And I think they recently revealed that The Rock is one of them. So like it's his face and everything. So Brie Larson is another one of those 7. So they're basically their Justice League, which I think that's pretty cool. And it's pretty neat to see some of these people playing characters within the game instead of like their Marvel or DC counterparts or whatever. Yeah.
Very interesting. I don't have too much to say. Actually, I don't really have anything to say.
Well, let's talk about something maybe we'll have a lot to say, and that's that Constantine, the Keanu Reeves movie is getting a sequel. What is going on at Warner Brothers?
This is not needed. Do you know? I never saw that movie before.
Either. Who has?
I did. Me.
My daughter was.
I liked it.
A dance competition in Jacksonville this past year, and it happened to be on, and there was nothing else on. And I was like, Braden, I'm like, you want to watch Constantine with Keanu Reeves? Like, sure. And we were watching this movie, and this is the shittiest. This is a really bad movie. Like, bad. He was laughing. It was so bad. I mean, wow. I didn't think it was that bad until I watched it. And I'm like, and now when I heard this news, I'm like, they're gonna make a sequel to this? I'm like,
so they're canceling. Oh, where are you gonna say, Brett?
No, I was just gonna say, for one, we get Shia LaBeouf in that movie, by the way, cursing a lot. Remember that?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I watched this like years and years ago with never having read or seen anything about Constantine ever. I had no frame of reference. I liked the movie. I like Keanu Reeves.
You like those freaking pistols with the big crosses on them?
At the time, I did. Whatever. I liked the movie.
It was the time of like Resident Evil and those type of movies were coming out. So
yeah, and I like those too. So
me too. I love Resident Evil, but also that's like a video game franchise, and there's so many DC things out. Resident Evil is just one franchise. You canceled Batgirl. That is a finished movie to have a Constantine sequel.
I agree. I agree with you on there. I'm just saying I like the original movie when it came out with no frame of reference whatsoever. It came out in like 2005, so I probably watched it like 2006. Who's the
audience though? Who's the audience that's gonna? I mean,
there's people that like Constantine might like it,
idea.
And people that like Keanu Reeves. Yeah,
exactly.
That will be it, right there.
Anybody that's a fan of Constantine, like classic Constantine or comics or the version at CW, they're not going to watch this. they're going to hate this because everybody that is in that crowd has always hated on this movie, the original Keanu Reeves one. So
Jonathan's upset with
that comment was funny. That you popped up there. Pistols with crosses. That's some Devil May Cry stuff there.
It really is. And again,
there's some crazy fight scenes in that movie, man. They're like flying through buildings and rooms and just like
it's Keanu Reeves and it's J.J. Abrams. It's money. That's the answer, Ken.
Yeah. But J.J. Abrams had all these other movies. They had Justice League Dark. He had all these other plans, and it's just like.
Keanu Reeves.
And it's a sequel. It's hard to sell a sequel of a
Keanu
movie
Reeves.
No one watched.
My answer the whole time.
Be better. Watch this one be better than the first one. The technologies are a lot better now.
Yeah.
It could be cooler,
But did even what's his movie? What the hell is that movie?
John
Wick? The one that made him famous. No, the other one.
Which
Matrix?
One? Speed?
Yeah, The Matrix. The Matrix 3 didn't do very well, and that's The Matrix.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have. That's my only answer. That it's like, oh, we know Keanu Reeves is gonna make us some money, so we'll put him in a movie again. Oh, he did this thing. Let's do that again.
W&B is crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy.
They're probably banking on Constantine being popular because of the CW stuff. Maybe I don't know.
Listen, in order for them to pull that Batgirl show or movie or whatever it was, it had to have been pretty bad though. It had to have been pretty bad. If it was already made and they said, let's yank it, seriously.
They claim they didn't have the advertising budget, right?
No, what they wanted to do is get a tax write-off for it. They're like,
that makes sense.
Let's take the tax. If we don't release it, we get the tax write-off. If we do release it, we don't. So that's what happened.
They probably they make more money on the tax write-off than the profits that they did to make.
Exactly. Because they already didn't know what they wanted to do with it because it was, again, HBO Max, and it was going to be theater, then it was going to be HBO Max, and then it was going to be theater, and they're like, oh, whatever, let's just not do it at all. I think they've canceled other movies, too. Like, there's just nothing in the pipeline with them. But don't worry, Flash is coming out, guys. at a theater, by a theater by you. You'll see the Flash. All right, let's move on to some comic talk here. So we talked about the dawn of DCU, but we also have new beginnings for Action Comics. So, I mean, I'll get it. I'm interested to see what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Not
we
many
kind of talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
No.
He's back. We haven't been reading it. We're going to read it. What else is there to say?
That's the story. That is definitely the story.
I mean, supposedly it's supposed to be like, I don't know, something different. Like it's supposed to be this monumental thing. You know, it's supposed to change Superman. They made it seem like it's going to be this big thing. There's like, 25 variant covers for this thing. Like, it's crazy.
Well, it kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense because you're celebrating the death of Superman at the same time you're celebrating the return of Superman. So
he wasn't gone for that long.
That's true. I agree. I'm just saying.
What's that? When he was in the.
But I agree.
When he's off world.
Yeah.
It's been a while though. I want to say it's probably been a year.
It's probably been a year. Yeah.
It's not like we haven't, like, he's been doing stuff. You know, he still has that series. He still, like, was around.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He wasn't gone and
It's
disappeared.
just he hasn't been on Earth.
Yeah.
He was Doctor Strange gone, Cat.
Yeah, that's a great transition into a book that I couldn't stay on with, but you guys did, and that is Strange. Guess who's returning? Doctor Strange. The movie didn't do
He's already been back. He's already He was back already in the last issue. He is the
he's
Harvest
back
Man.
Again.
He's the Harvest Man. You remember the Harvest Man?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he's
from the first issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So he is.
He never left.
He never left.
Never left.
No.
You guys still liking this series?
I like it. I still think it's good. It's pretty interesting. You know, I don't know how long it's going on for though.
I don't know, but I think like there's I think I saw a solicitation for issue 9 at least. So
yeah, this is.
I like Clea. I think she is a badass in this series, and I think I would love to see her around more. I just like how she don't take shit from people, and that's what I like about her.
Yeah, no, I've enjoyed the series. Sorry. 10 comes out in whatever that is, November. So yeah, I guess it's still ongoing. I think they changed the name to Doctor Strange though, from Strange. So
makes sense, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, because he's back.
I think it's a fine series. It's like not one of my favorite series, but I am enjoying it, and I do like her character too, Mike.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to some more Marvel news, which is Scarlet Witch is getting an ongoing book by Steve Orlando. I'll try it out. I feel I want this to be great. I hope it is good, but like, where was this a year ago? Why is this coming out now?
Yeah, exactly.
Wasn't she dead? Didn't she die though from the
I can't even keep up
trial
with her,
of Magneto?
Yes,
did she come back from that?
She came back at like by the end of that. Actually, before the end of that. Yeah, it was a very short death. A version of herself brought her back to life. It was very confusing.
No,
Sarah Pacelli is doing the art though, so they do have
Sarah
like
Pacelli.
a pretty big team
cool.
for this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll check it out. I like the character, so you know, I'll be interested to see what it is about.
Yeah,
and now that you just said that Sarah Pacelli does the artwork, I'll definitely will check it out.
She's also been in Captain Marvel this arc, so
that's cool.
Every issue, yeah.
Kenneth asks why Steve Orlando is writing it. He's been doing a lot of the X-Men books. He's writing Marauders right now, so makes sense because Jared Dugan
Marauders is any good.
I definitely am not a huge fan of Marauders. I had to drop Marauders, and I was saying something.
That is something.
But I think that's honestly more of an overall statement of the X-Men. I have not been liking where the X-Men is, so I'm just like, I don't want to blame that book. I just think it's an overall direction that I'm not enjoying.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that.
All right, let's get into some Batman news. So Batman Urban Legends, I can't believe has lasted as long as it did and is ending now.
Thank God.
That's just my sentence on that.
Is that why you marked it, Mike, just so you could say that?
Yes. It's so overpriced. It's so much money for an anthology book. That's another thing that DC, if they need to reboot, they need to reboot their fucking prices. Excuse the language, but seriously, like their books are so much money, and it's just, I can understand why people won't buy their books, because people are not going to pay $7 or $8 for a comic book. It's just not going to work, especially an anthology book that has, you know, just some stories, for most of them, just throwaway stories. It's just, it only makes sense for them to finally cancel that book.
I agree. I couldn't even tell you the last time I picked up an issue of that. I dropped it a long time ago.
I think it was the Tim stuff for me. I dropped it after that because I was like, oh,
Yeah,
let's see what happens with Tim. And I'm like, all right, I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Once the
Right, it was
magic
pretty
stuff
close after
happened with Zatanna, I was like, I'm good.
Yeah, same. Yeah, it was around that same time. I do think it's interesting that they're closing it out with a Nightwing story and a Dick Grayson as Robin story, but
Okay.
yeah.
I don't need to pick it up, but
No, I'm not going
it's
to
good.
either. I'm just saying. That's cool.
It's good, at least it's characters that, you know, people want to pick up for.
Right.
All right, last thing, and I think this is pretty big news here, is that Miles Morales, we talked about it literally, I think last week, Miles Morales is getting a new series, and the writer is the person who did Spider-Punk, Cody Ziegler. I didn't love Spider-Punk, but I am interested, obviously, see a new direction for Miles, and I'll definitely be picking it up.
Who's doing the art? Do we know?
Federico. Federico.
And Santini.
Yeah,
he actually does some pretty nice artwork.
Yeah, I've seen that art. Yeah. Okay.
I actually did a video of this on the channel, and my thought was, what can Cody Ziegler do that Solomon Ahmed could not do, right? And the biggest thing is give him some depth, give him something to read about, right? Give him a supporting cast. And he also wrote some of the Beyond storyline. He also did that.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah.
Did we like it?
He was a contributor to that.
He's also a staff writer on She-Hulk, the movie, the show.
That's interesting. The show.
So, and the one thing that I got out of this is that he's trying to get out of the shadow of Peter Parker. So he doesn't want Peter Parker to be his mentor anymore. He is looking for there's supposedly it's going to be a black character that's going to be a mentor of Miles. So I don't know who that is going to be. I said that it could be Luke Cage. People in the comments were saying that it could be Misty Knight. That the rumor is.
Oh, that's Misty Knight. That'd be really.
That would be good.
Not that Luke Cage is not cool, but we're already seeing Luke Cage.
We see a lot of Luke Cage.
Yeah. Misty, we don't see a lot of. That'd be really, really cool.
And his costume is reverting back to the way it was.
Oh, nice.
That's good.
Yes.
Thank goodness.
I think those are hopeful stuff, and I think it's really cool to see like a black point of view. See like more of a black cast is going to be interesting too. Hope for the best. Hope it's great.
Absolutely.
All right, that's all the news. So we're gonna go into most anticipated.
Oh yeah, there's that. It's like I was like, we're done. I forgot all about it. All right,
section.
Yeah, I know. So we're kind of all over the map with this one. Mike just went completely rogue on us this week.
Yeah, I did. I was expecting at least one title to be there. I was surprised not to see that one title. We'll talk about it, but
because you and I have two of the same. All right, so let's start with you then, Mike.
All right. First one, my number 3 is Barbaric Book 2, Axe to the Grind, Issue 2. Really love. Again, I can't remember if this is Vault or Aftershock. I want to say
it's
this
Vault.
might be Vault. Yeah,
it's Vault. Yeah.
So
I just saw it on their website.
There, I love this book. It's so good. I'll recommend this to anybody that doesn't mind a little bit of gore but wants some humor and likes fantasy. So this is a fun book. Great stuff here. Next, of course, number 2 is Gunslinger Spawn, issue 12, which probably in any other week it might be number 1, but Gunslinger, always a phenomenal read. Gunslinger got into some crazy battle in the last issue and he got his head ripped off. And so that's how the issue ended. So you're kind of like, oh, okay, Gunslinger, like what's going to happen now? You know, overall, great artwork by Brett Booth, great character interactions with the main characters in here. Can't wait for that. And then we got of course, World's Finest issue 7 comes out, and this is the beginning of a new story arc. So that book has not let me down yet. So I look forward to it each and every week, and also with that beautiful Dan Mora artwork in there too.
The one I was shocked that you did not have was Ryan Stegman and Donny Cates' new book, Vanish issue 1.
It's there, but it's not. It was not in the top 3. I'm trying to remember where it was on my countdown. I don't exactly remember where it was at, but it's there. I think it was right middle ground because, again, even though I'm anticipating it, I don't know anything about it. So it's just like sometimes with established books, they rank higher for me because I know already what I'm expecting and I'm already excited, like super excited for it.
Okay. This is a harder week. I feel like there's a
lot of books.
Books. And not even a lot of issue 1s. They're just like a lot of like Radiant Black. That was one that, you know, Brand has, but like Radiant Black is like something I really wanted to put on there because I love the series, but I was like, oh, but I really like this title. I like this. So it was a harder week, which is a good thing. There's a lot of books to look forward to.
Yeah, I had like 6. I was shuffling back and forth until I figured out what I wanted. But let's talk about you, Kat. What are yours?
Yeah, number 3 is Vanish issue 1. Just because crossover I loved. I really enjoyed that series a lot. And it's the creative team of Venom. I want to see what Donny Cates is up to. I feel like he's been building up to this series for a while, so I think there's a lot of promise. Number 2 is Exterminators, issue 1, just because I think I have not been reading X-Men title, and this just looks so bombastic. You have Dazzler, Boom Boom, Jubilee, just interesting crowd of characters, so very interested in that. And then Rogues Gallery, issue 3, because I've been really liking this series. Issue 1 was great, issue 2 was great. And now we're kind of seeing where the plot goes because the issue 1 was to introduce like the fans. Issue 2 was to introduce the main character. Now we're going to see where that takes us.
Yeah, exactly. No, I completely agree. That's actually my number 3. So for all the reasons you mentioned, Radiant Black did make my list as you mentioned with number 2. It's the origin of Yellow on this one in this issue, right? So I'm excited to learn more about some of the other characters. And then a Vanish because I'm excited about it. Like you said, it's the Venom team. It's Donny Cates. He's delivered some really great books that I've really enjoyed. So I'm excited about this one. I had forgotten about this one until I was looking through it. And I was like, oh, it's that new Donny Cates book. So I had to put that one in my number 1 spot.
Yeah. I see what happens with that. I mean, I hope it's great. I really do.
Me too.
I hope it's one of those books where it's like it blows you out of the water. For me, I'm trying to keep my expectations low for this book, because I don't want to raise it high and then it just sucks. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes with these indie, you have these, these great creators, and sometimes the indie book doesn't hit it right. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, his last book that he did, with, what's it called? Oh my God. I can't remember. What's the last one? Yeah, Crossover. Yeah. The last book he did there, Crossover. I mean, that was brilliant. That was just a brilliant piece of work right there. So hopefully he can duplicate that and with that artwork as well. Yeah. Hopefully.
Speaking of Crossover, I don't know if I told you guys, I got the I forget when it came out, but the issue 1, the 3D version.
I did too.
Oh, did you?
Okay.
Yeah, I did too.
Was it good?
I put on the 3D glasses just to see what it would look like.
Did you?
Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, man. I'm like looking at 3D glasses.
I haven't even opened it yet.
It really pops. It really pops at you pretty good. Yeah.
Sweet. I'll have to check it out. It's over in my pile over there.
I don't have it, so you'll have to let me know.
There's an added story to it. I didn't read it, but there is an added. Yeah. It's like it takes place like in the dome.
Okay.
Oh, cool. I haven't seen that perspective.
Yeah. All right.
Here we got real quick. We got Kenneth who says my most anticipated is Nightwing 96. Number 2, Star Wars Darth Vader issue 27. Number 3, Batman Superman World's Finest issue 7.
I never know what to think about Nightwing, which is like I always want to be really excited for it, but then I'm like, oh yeah, never mind.
It's the finale of the Heart guy thing. I forget what his name is.
There is that Brady Bunch cover.
Wait, it's not continuing what happened with Dick? because
What happened
Blockbuster
in one?
punched his mask off. Remember, his mask went
Oh,
flying.
right. I still
It's-
think it's probably a continuation of that too.
Yeah, but it's just the finale of that particular part of the story too, I guess. And like World's Finest is a brand new arc too, right?
Yeah.
Which again, another one I wish I could have put on my list.
Yeah,
I've
it was
been really liking World's
it was
Finest.
like my number
Yeah,
four,
see, there was a lot of books, so it could go either way. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
I'm excited for our top 5 next week to
Mhm.
see if we'll have similar ones, different ones, just because there's such a variety of books that we can enjoy. Or maybe we hate all the books that come out next week. We'll see.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything disappoints us.
All right. Well, that's it, guys. I think we're going to wrap it up. So we'll just do it again all over next week. We'll talk about all those books. Hopefully, we'll got a great topic to talk about. Everyone, want to thank you so much for joining tonight's show. We appreciate your participation. On the way out, if you want to give this video a like, it'll help tremendously, whether you're on Comic Book Weekly or Comic Book Corner 2.0. And of course, guys, don't forget to subscribe to both channels so you don't miss anything. And hit the bell, like I said earlier, because if you hit that bell, you know when this show goes live, and you know when this show goes live on Comic Book Corner 2.0 or wherever it is, or videos or any of that stuff. So thank you, Kenneth, for the great show compliments. Give it a thumbs up. Like I said all that crap already. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, YouTube. So guys, good night. Here's the waving part. Happy new comic book day in like 8 minutes. Enjoy your books, everyone.